Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I'm going to be doing an update on the Israeli-Hamas conflict. This will be episode 13 of the New Yorker, and I'm also doing a simulcast with Spaces. So we're doing the video side of this and the audio side of this. Then after this show, then I'm also going to do an extensive replay of actually Hitchens' case against Kissinger, all right, and the crimes against humanity, especially tied with this whole Cambodian Vietnam era conflict, all right. And then I will also tangentially talk about this energy influx. You know, I've been posting for a couple months now about 11:30, which was yesterday. I'm recording this on December 1st. Okay, I told people, and other sensitives have said the same thing, that from August 1st of this year to 11:30 of this year, there was a darkness on individuals that were sensitive. Okay, and it doesn't matter what religion you are. It's just that there's for a better term, some people would say psychic, but that's not. I don't think that's the right term. I'll just use the word sensitive. They're sensitives, all right, and they were picking up on something that was happening between August 1st to November 30th, and then we had this resurgence of conflict in the Middle East on October 7th. There are other people that have sensed something similar and said that powerful alignments were taking place in October and in September. So, and not being able to blow the shofar on the first night of Rosh Hashanah because it was the Sabbath, and there's this whole slew of things that were taking place. I made a tweet last night saying that there's a dark cloud that's coming over. Now, I mentioned this multiple weeks ago, probably a month ago, all right, or more, that once we pass the 11:30 mark, the sensitives will start to ease up in terms of bad things happening to them. What was happening for the sensitives between August 1st to 11:30 were a change in their life, stressors or some sort of thing that is negative. You can use terms like curse. So there was more curse than blessing, if you want to use those terms, during that time period for the sensitives. Well, the sensitives were starting to prepare for an energy influx that is going to transpire on sundown today. Okay, and this energy influx will start to pulse. Okay, and there are long wavelengths and short wavelengths, high frequency, short frequencies. Long wavelengths are pulses that are taking place like in the 1700s, and then, happening again in the 1800s, and happening again, in the 1900s, and happening again right now. So there's this long wave of pulse that's happening at this moment at sundown today, all right. Now, of course, sundown is different everywhere around the world, so this is going to slowly migrate around the world as sundown happens. Okay, this pulse, this energy pulse. Now, this energy pulse is going to, for the sensitives that prepared themselves, most of them did, they will get an understanding. But that understanding is good and bad. It's not like, oh, everything's, copacetic. There's going to be there's going to be understanding of good and bad in this pulse. Depending on what kind of person you are, depends on if you are going to be able to turn that into something good or turn that into something bad. As these, and this pulse, I don't know how many days it will last, but there'll be like this a flux of energy or a flux of information to the ones that can receive this, that have prepared themselves. The ones that have not, they aren't going to be able to benefit from it. All right, and this cloud that I said is starting on December 1st is around the world is now going to affect the rest of the world like it was affecting the sensitives between August 1st to 11/30. But the magnitude of it is going to be far greater in terms of number of people, because there's less sensitives compared to the total population. But there's also going to be the magnitude of the negative feeling that the sensitives have will be far more on the rest of the world than on the sensitives. The sensitives were the bellwether. Sensitives were the warning. Were the ones that were saying, "Hey, pay attention. Start getting your house in order." All right. And some people did. Some people did. It's too late now. It's too late. So there's this cloud is going to slowly move around the world at sundown, and there's going to be an energy flux for that population at that moment in time that can receive this knowledge. All right, but again, it's not like this, everything's great type knowledge. There's going to be sadness in it. There's going to be understanding. There's going to be joy. There's going to be a mix of emotions that are inside this energy inflow. I don't have better words to describe this. So I'm just trying the best I can to describe what's happening. That energy influx is going to have a mix of emotions. All right. And then it's going to pulse, and it's going to start on December 1st at sundown. Then what's going to happen is that there's going to be other days that of different intensities, some less, some more. And then what happens is that there's an internal menorah in all of us. All right, in all of us, not just Jews. That a light is going to turn on. A light is going to be a light is going to be kindled. All right, and that is going to take us out of the month of Kislev. All right, I think Hanukkah starts on the 7th. All right, so this pulse, and there's going to be a pulse that lights an internal menorah inside someone's soul. All right, and it's 8 days. Again, you don't have to be Jewish to have to this through this effect, and that pulse is going to kindle that internal menorah, and then that's going to carry you out of the month of Kislev and into the next month. I don't know the Hebrew month of that. I'd have to look it up. But we're in the 19th of Kislev. All right, that energy pulse is going to start taking place at sundown today around the world, and then it will have different magnitudes of pulse on different days. Some no pulse, some a higher intensity pulse, some a less intensity pulse another day. But it'll kindle an internal menorah in one soul, and that starts on, I believe, December 7th, and it lasts for 8 days, and that goes into the end. It goes through the end of Kislev, which is the current lunar month, and into the next month. So the ones that are the sensitives are trying to capture this knowledge, right? And it's a mixture of not all knowledge is good, right? And it's a mixture of emotions. So when someone says, "Oh, I want to be enlightened," well, being enlightened actually is also understanding sorrow and death and destruction. So this will light that internal flame or flames, right? Now, the rest of the world, all right, is going to start feeling the magnitude, and it will gain momentum. It's not going to be like, oh, everything is all at once. It's going to slowly churn and get worse and worse and worse, because each day of this dark cloud that's coming over for the rest of the world is a test to see what type of person you are. And this is going to continue on up to a certain date. I don't know what date that is. Somewhere in 2024. I don't know what date it is. I suspect that it's before April, but I don't know that. I do know that the cloud is coming, and it starts for the rest of the world on December 1st at sundown around the world. And it starts to emerge, right? It emerges, and it gets worse over time up to a certain point. So we're going to see a lot of unusual activity happening. Ones that are sensitive, if you have some sort of ailment, that ailment may actually get worse. Like, for example, people that have headaches, your headaches might actually get worse. If you have arthritis, your arthritis might actually get worse. There's going to be, because not everybody can absorb this energy that's taking place. All right. But we are being judged on our decisions that we have made in the immediate term, like this year, and the decisions that we've made in the long term throughout our life. And especially through the immediate term, the contemporary decisions that we've made, we are being judged on what side of good and evil we're deciding to be on. And there are multiple chances to rectify one's soul. But in terms of being able to capture this first energy pulse, if you didn't prepare yourself, like I told, then you're not going to be able to harness it. It's too late now. But you can still you still can try to become a better person. So the cloud that's coming over you starting tonight is going to be lessened. But there's going to be some really tumultuous things that are going to be happening. Now, what just happened last night was a failure to extend the pause or the ceasefire, whatever term you want to use, between the Israelis and Hamas's conflict, all right, the Hamas and Israeli conflict. They've been extending it because they were releasing hostages. But you'll notice in the news that they're trying to spin it that the war continues because no hostages are being released. And the reality of the situation is that the war needs to continue to knock out Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. Now, there are going to be people that disagree with me. It's okay to disagree with me. I really don't care. I don't do these things to get people to agree with me. All right. Actually, being a contrarian is better than trying to get people to like you, because the truth is in being a contrarian. But the way I see this is that there needs to be, we are the generation that's creating a stepping stone for the Temple Mount to be rebuilt. We are not going to enjoy the Temple Mount. We are going to die before that happens. But we are the generation that is setting in motion for the next generation to start building it. And so what's happening here is that we need to be the generation that's preparing for that, and stop using emotional fallacies like, oh, Israel's starting the war again because they didn't get back enough hostages. The reality is that there is a metastasized cancer in the world. And that if you're a person that is going to be anti-Israeli or anti-Jewish or anti um, um, religion, all right, then the dark cloud that's coming over you is going to be much more severe. And the sensitives have been telling you this since August 1st in different ways. They've been saying certain dates have been really powerful dates. I'm just saying that there was a dark cloud on the sensitives that felt it between August 1st to November 30th, and that bad things were happening to them. All right. Some, really major, like death, and some less major, like a hangnail. But the point here is that there was different levels of that was a joke. But there was different levels of severity with the sensitives between August 1st and November 30th. The magnitude of the cloud coming over the rest of the world is going to be far more. The sensitives have a certain type of soul, and they were given a warning, and they are trying to become better, a better person. Their soul, they try to purify their soul to be able to get that influx that's starting at sundown around the world and lighting that internal menorah, all right, that carries off into the next month of the lunar month. Now, the rest of the world is going to be tested. And this is the dark cloud. In the dark cloud, it's not one super dark cloud all of a sudden, right at midnight. No, it slowly emerges and gets darker and darker and darker as the world keeps on making the same mistake. And that is not dealing with Ishmael and Esau, especially Esau at this moment in time. All right. We were dealing with a metastasized problem that is of biblical origin, that has not been rectified at all. And we need to do that. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that will just say, oh, bad Jews and bad Israel and bad Christian. And those are the ones that are going to be disentangled from the group so a curse can happen to them. See, what's happening through this dark cloud is that if people pay attention and try to become a better person, you're going to be able to be in the good, be able to be in a group that gets the good light, the blessing. And the ones that are in the out group, the evil ones, they're going to get the curse, the curse of the light. But this is going to start to grow. And we are in some really tumultuous times that are happening. There are events that are taking place outside of Israel that are going to test you. All right, this dark cloud is an analogy of many bad things that could be happening to you. And it's not just with this whole Israeli-Hamas conflict. Sorry about that. The market just opened. So this dark cloud, when you go outside, you're going to see, well, where's the dark cloud? No, it's a dark cloud testing you through world events to see if you are going to become a better person. And that dark cloud, you're going to start seeing certain things happening to you. You're going to start losing money. You're going to start seeing that some of your assets that you've obtained over the years are starting to deflate. You're going to start seeing your health decline. You're going to start seeing that you're going to be more worried and you're not sleeping as well. You're going to get bad dreams. You're going to start feeling anxiety. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to be testing you. Death in families, or death with friends, or friends that you thought you could count on that don't help you at all. Vice versa, neighbor conflicts. There's going to be a lot of little things that are going to start with the light dark. The cloud that is somewhat seems to be dissipated. But over time, that cloud is going to get thicker and thicker and thicker on your life, and you're going to start feeling you're getting clamped down. You're going to start feeling the stress because you haven't paid attention and became a better person. There are going to be some that take my advice right away, and it's not going to be so bad. It's going to be, a less of a magnitude. But the ones that aren't paying attention to me, it's going to get a lot worse, up to the point of probably death. So the events that are taking place in Israel are the epicenter of a larger thing that's of a larger dynamic. All right, we are seeing the pulmonary problems that are happening in China, and also news in Australia and the UK about certain types of pathogens. I don't want to go into the details in this video. I will go into the details of it, but we're being tested again. And there's certain things that mankind didn't do during the last crisis that it should have. It should have galvanized and shut down bioweapons labs and truncate national security states around the world, especially with the Five Eyes. We didn't. You had a society that worried too much about an anti-vax movement. You're looking at people and putting people up on a pedestal that actually are promoting something that you believe in, all right, vaccine injury, which it does happen, but these people that you're promoting were actually part of the national security apparatus, either through consultants or direct, that perpetuated the bioweapons development in the United States and in China. Why are you doing that? That very essence, that by promoting these type of people, this is the judgment that is coming down on you. There's a judgment that's taking place. Now, if you wake up to it, it's not going to be so bad. If not, it's going to get worse. But there's a dark cloud coming. Now, with that said, I'm going to start playing and critiquing the news that's related to the Israeli-Hamas conflict, but don't fall into the emotional fallacy. To conduct the war and to root out Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran is what is needed to set in motion that the rebuilding of the temple. We're not going to be the generation that benefits from it. We are the generation that is going to set it in motion. Sometimes you don't do things because you're going to benefit. You do things so future generations can benefit. This is CNN's
the length of time that Israel had to review these plans and why it wasn't listened to.
So somewhere around 2022, Israeli intelligence was able to get the plan for the Hamas attack. It was codenamed by Israeli intelligence the War of Jericho, the Jericho War, and it details in many different details how the attack is going to take place, exactly as it took place more than a year after. This could be an intelligence victory for Israel, but Israeli analysts, some of the seniors of Israeli intelligence, saw the plan as more of, they call it a compass for the building of the forces, where Hamas wants to be, but not where Hamas is. So while having that plan, they saw this as something that Hamas is far from being capable of doing. They believe that Hamas doesn't have the ability to conduct such a massive operation. We are talking about, according to that plan, to break the fence between Gaza and Israel in 60 different places. Israel believed they could do that maybe in 2 places. They called for the bombing and destruction. The communication centers, and then the ramping of the division headquarters, the Gaza division headquarters that is in charge of protecting the front. In July of this year, so a year after, an analyst that was reviewing intercepts about Hamas military exercises
I don't understand why this.
She becomes from 8 to 100. This is the Israeli NSA, the equivalent to the American NSA. And
I don't understand why his audio keeps him kicking out. I don't know if they're
empirical plan and its real capabilities. And
it's I think they're censoring this.
more senior intelligence officer they told her, this is an imaginary plan. They cannot do that. And so here is the tragedy for Israeli intelligence, for Israeli public. Instead of positioning, it's not just an intelligence debate. If the Israeli Defense Forces would adopt this plan as something that Hamas can do, even without any connection to the intention of Hamas, the decision to execute, this is something that the analyst couldn't say. She did not push back on the Israeli wisdom that time meaning 3-4 months ago, that Hamas doesn't want to go to all-in-one. But if Israeli defense establishment had the knowledge that Hamas is capable of launching such an attack, that would put a total different size of forces on the border. The outcome could be very different.
Also, according to your reporting, this analyst saw an exercise that Hamas
They're censoring it
undertook,
for information,
a trial
so
run,
they don't release certain
and
names.
raised red flags again, saying this looks very much like the Wall of Jericho plan that we had discussed before, and again would seem to have been dismissed.
Not just that, she says, here's an interesting bit of information. The same quote from the Quran, Surah Al-Ma'idah, that begins with which this detailed plan for action, this detailed plan for attack starts with. It's called for this. This is something about Moses, but it's about the surprise entry through a gate. I think it's not a coincidence that Hamas picked this up. The people participating, the Hamas gunmen participating in that drill, were using the same quote. The same quote is now part of the emblem of Hamas, used in all Hamas publications, statement and videos since the attack.
As you know, the Israeli
I want to interject here because I did a video about the Bible code on this. All right, on what happened on October 7th, and using the words, I think it was shield of swords. And if you use the gematria of that phrase, it will equal the gematria of phrases that are in Psalms. All right. So Jews say Tehillim, which is Psalms, right? If you're Orthodox, you say it every day. You say a certain set of Psalms each day of the month, or some Orthodox will say a bunch of Psalms each day, and the cycle is weekly. I say the cycle monthly, the monthly cycle. Some only do it, maybe once a year, but a lot of Jews will say at least something in Psalms every day. Well, if you use the gematria of that term, it will equal to certain phrases for certain Psalms. And I read those in the video. You can go and watch it. It's the Bible code, and it must have been one of the graveyard shift episodes, but it's the Bible code. And listen to it. But it goes into detail about when you read it in the context of October 7th, you see that the Jews were being judged, and that I go into detail on why I think the Jews were being judged. And Israel isn't all lily white. There's a lot of conflict that's going on between Orthodox and the ultra liberal movement in Israel. God doesn't like conflict within the Jewish people nor amongst people around the world, and we're all being judged on it. All right, and there was an intelligence failure here. The conspiracy theorists, and I'm not trying to be negative here on conspiracy theorists, but conspiracy theorists will interpret what this person is saying as, well, there must have been an inside job. Well, that is possible, and it's probably highly probable. But there's also the possibility and a high probability that it's a failure of imagination, that you may have had the intelligence and didn't think that the capability of your enemy was such, and therefore you didn't pay attention to it. And that happens all the time in the intelligence agencies. So it could be either or. I take the stance that's a little bit more spiritual, and that is God let it happen because the Jews were being punished. But when God does these things, it's not just punishing the Jewish people, it's also punishing the Palestinians, right? And this conflict, as you have seen this across the world, you have noticed the division of people. Where is their true heart? I mean, I knew that there were a lot of crazy liberals at Harvard, all right? I knew that, and crazy communists and socialists and all this. I had no idea the hate for Israel and for the Jews until this incident happened. I had no idea how much hate was at Fordham. I went to Fordham for my pre-med, all right? I had no idea. I mean, it's pretty conservative school, and Fordham has a ton of anti-Semitism. So this event allowed for hate of people to precipitate out of solution. It was hidden. And so bringing up certain phrases in the Quran does not surprise me that there is this alignment. I said this in a previous video. I think it was the last video I did. So episode 12, maybe episode 11 of the New Yorker. There is this alignment of frequencies. So for a better way to describe this, there's the frequency of Ishmael, and there's the frequency of Isaac, okay? Or the frequency of Esau and the frequency of Jacob. And there's an alignment that's taking place with their religions, with the Jewish faith and the Islamic faith. And that alignment is not a good alignment. It's an alignment where there's a portal that is communicating between the two. I know this sounds crazy. I know but I'm trying to describe the best I can. But there is a frequency portal that is happening between Esau, Jacob, Ishmael, and Isaac. And this frequency portal is causing conflict, and one side has to be killed. Now, if the Jews die, the temple does not get rebuilt. The blessings that we have on this earth is through the unique relationship of the Kohanim and the Levites providing the sacrifices and the incense, and to allow the Shekinah to rest on the ark on the Temple Mount. And that requirement is what brings down this further blessing that is going to happen. So we're going to have to go through these kind of labor pains of strife and destruction and death and mayhem and plague, right? I mean, literally, if you just read the news, you can almost see in almost real time biblical events that are taking place. I mean, with all these plagues that are happening, all these wars that are happening, and the financial instability that's about to take place, and all this stuff. I mean, people that are somewhat sensitive or in tune to this, they're sensing something very similar to what I'm saying. All right, maybe you can articulate it better. I don't know, but the point here is that there's this big battle between the Islamic faith and the Jewish faith, and it's all related to the Mount, the Temple Mount. It's not about land. It's not about the land. It's about the Temple Mount. And that's the core of the issue. You know, like I was saying with the previous crisis, what's the core of the issue? It's national security state running rogue, making biologics, either as defensive or offensive capabilities. That's the root cause. While all the anti-vaxxers focused on vaccines. That's not the root cause. The root cause is a crazy national security state. The root cause is not boxing in the Palestinians in Gaza. The root cause is the Temple Mount. The Dome of the Rock needs to come down. That's the root cause of all this. And until people wake up, it's gonna get worse and worse, and the cloud is gonna get darker and darker. And the ones that are been disentangled, and there's the good group and the bad group is gonna get a severe curse. It's not gonna be pretty. But he's what this journalist is saying about the Quran and these phrases, they're aligning a frequency alignment with what's going on in Psalms.
Israeli government posted online on X last month, quote, contrary to the false claims, under no circumstances and at no stage was Prime Minister Netanyahu warned of Hamas's war intentions. They went on to say at no point was a warning given to Prime Minister Netanyahu on Hamas's intention to start a war. On the contrary, all the defense officials, including the heads of the intelligence directorate and the Shin Bet, assessed that Hamas was deterred. Do you know if the Prime Minister was in fact informed? Because it sounds like from your reporting that this document was widely disseminated in intelligence and military circles.
Yeah. So we don't know if Prime Minister Netanyahu was presented with this document. We do know, and this comes from previous reporting, that he was warned again, and again, and in details, at least in 4 different letters throughout the last.
To cut off the date. So they're censoring his audio. CNN censoring the audio to not have certain information released.
Particularly the window of opportunity to attack.
Yeah.
This document was sent to many, and I think this would point forth.
All right. So my take on it, I didn't realize that CNN was going to censor him so much. But here's the point that I think that there was intelligence available at least for a year, and warnings going all the way to probably, a few months right before the attack, October 7th attack, maybe even a few, maybe even weeks away from the attack or days from the attack. But I think it's a lack of imagination on what the capability of Hamas was. But there also could have been an inside job. But I'm still on the side that God let this happen, because the Jewish people were doing the infighting. We got to remember what happened right before October 7th, because October 7th was Simchas Torah. Before Simchas Torah is Sukkot, and there were a lot of ultra liberal Jews not following Sukkot, and there were a lot of liberal Jews right before Sukkot, which is Yom Kippur, that were stopping prayers during Yom Kippur in Tel Aviv. So they're, the holiest day of the year is Yom Kippur, right? So you had in Tel Aviv 18 different synagogues that had protests by the ultra-liberal stopping prayer services in Tel Aviv. So, don't be surprised that something negative happens to your country because of the infighting between the Orthodox and the ultra-liberal. Now, the Orthodox are at fault too. So, what I just described was the fault of the ultra-liberal Jew, but the Orthodox Jew is at fault because for years they have been, because they follow the mitzvahs, so they're more sensitive to this spiritual energy source that I'm talking about. They should have been kinder to the ultra-liberal to try to bring them into the fold, try to see that, you don't have to be that way. You can be a little bit closer to God and follow the mitzvahs, keep kosher. pray, you don't have to be Orthodox, but you can just do, don't interrupt the holiest service of the year in 18 different synagogues because of some sort of political agenda. So the Orthodox people were at fault, but they had an earlier curse, very similar to what I was saying about August 1st to 11:30 for the sensitives. We felt it first. And the ones that aren't the sensitives are gonna start feeling what the sensitives felt, but at a higher, it's gonna be a more of a negative magnitude on your life going forward after sundown of today. All right, and it's gonna build up, it's gonna gain momentum. The Orthodox had the curse on them. If you look at the terrorist activities that took place for the last 15 years, majority of them, there were a high percentage of Orthodox people that were killed. Now you fast forward to this incident in October 7th, the majority of the people that were killed on October 7th on the Israeli side were ultra liberals. And there was a curse that came on the Orthodox community saying, wake up, help the non-observant Jew to get back into the fold. They didn't do it. They didn't pay attention. And there were a few years ago, there were children that were Orthodox that died in pairs. And there was a connection between the tetragrammaton and the children dying, where it's the splitting of the tetragrammaton. And what are some of the most precious things for the Orthodox? It's their children, right? Because that's going to carry on the faith. Well, God took them away through a terrorist attack. Still, the Orthodox didn't wake up to try to make amends with the ultra liberals. And then the ultra liberals took it way too far and started to cause disruption, during prayer services during Yom Kippur this year. And then God punished Israel. But you'll have people out there that listen to me and they're going to say, well, God's against Israel, must be for the Palestinians. No, that's not, no, because there's a lot of, there's this desire to reboot the temple, and the Muslims can't reboot the temple. If they could have rebooted the temple, they would have done it before the Crusades when they put the Dome of the Rock up. But they can't. They don't have the means to do it. They don't know how to do it. They can't do it. So there's that part of trying to accelerate this conflict. But then look at the granular part of this. You had Hamas that held a 9-month, I think it was a 9-month-old baby for 50 days. Okay, let's say you captured the mother and the mother was holding the baby. You could have let the mother and the baby let go after the second or third day. You didn't have to hold them for 50 days. That's a sign of an animal. And the Jews have been warning about Ishmael and Esau for thousands of years, that they're animalistic. There's a certain animalistic behavior about them that is unreasonable. And the only way to deal with it is to kill them. And this is metastasized around the world now with all the immigration policies in Europe and, the open borders that we have in the United States. You know what? And then all of a sudden, when you see this conflict between Israel and Hamas, then you start seeing all the anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. But guess what? These same people are going to go after Christians. And these same people are going to go after Christians as the dark cloud starts to gain momentum.
Who saw and who decided to continue with this so-called conception, the ability to believe that Hamas is contained.
Reverend Bergman, it's incredible reporting. Thank you. We're now on the forces at play tonight. Joining us is Alex Marquardt and Arn Lieberman, also Axios reporter. And
so before he goes to those journalists that probably are not going to be censored, the main point I'm making is that intelligence probably was available, but it seemed kind of probably a little pie in the sky. And so there was there were probably groups within the intelligence in Israel. Some thought that this was a real problem, and some probably thought that it wasn't a real problem. But the bottom line is, God let it happen. And it sets in motion for us to actually see each of us is at fault here. Everyone is at fault. I'm at fault. You're at fault. Israel's at fault. Jews are at fault. Christians are at fault. Muslims are everyone's at fault at different degrees, because we didn't take the opportunity, being alive, to make peace in this world and to allow for a better era to happen. Now, some people call that era a messianic era, but a better era, whatever word you want to use. So we're all at fault at some degree, but we all can wake up to the fact that, you know, people that are evil need to be destroyed. You can't, it's the problem that has been happening over the last 3,000 years is placating to evil. You can't placate to evil because they beget evil. Their children become evil. Not all their children, but a subset of their population become evil and metastasizes.
And political and foreign policy analyst Barak Ravid, and CNN military analyst retired Army Lieutenant General Mark Hurley. Barak, first of all, how damning is this report for the Israeli government?
Well, I think in a world where women's sports is being transformed. Well, I think this is part of a series of stories that appeared in the Israeli press over the last week or 2 weeks, that what happens behind them is a fight between the Israeli intelligence community, or parts of it, especially the military intelligence, and the political echelon, with each side leaking stuff that are more comfortable to him when it comes to everything that happened in the year before the war. And, you know, a lot of people in Israel think that the reason that now we hear about those documents is because it's very comfortable for Benjamin Netanyahu and his people, and they're trying to put those things out in order to build a case for the inquiry committee that most likely is going to be formed on the day after the war.
I mean, Barak, as you know, intelligence officials, military officials have accepted responsibility. Benjamin Netanyahu has not in any form accepted any responsibility for the attack on October 7th. He had very early on, right before the operation in Gaza, he had tweeted out a criticism of the
I find it so ironic. You know, we're talking about biblical situations here, right? That it's been happening for, you know, a few years at least, if you want to look at just the contemporary side of this. It's so ironic that Anderson Cooper's more worried about who's at fault. Like I said, everybody's at fault. And it's the way we're living. And guess what? I'm really sure that Anderson Cooper his lifestyle is not in alignment with biblical precepts. You know, don't you find that, you know, pointing the finger, you know, it must be Benjamin Netanyahu. Did he admit that he was at fault? You know, that it must have been an inside job of Benjamin Netanyahu? What about looking at how we live our lives? We're all at fault. Even Anderson Cooper, the way he lives.
But a criticism of the heads of the military and intelligence, and then quickly withdrew that tweet and apologized for that. But it certainly seems like this is something he wants out there.
No doubt. By the way, there was a huge intelligence failure. It's not that it's not true. There was a huge intelligence failure. I just, you know, in one of the emails, this analyst from Israel Signals Intelligence Agency, A200, one of the headlines of one of her emails that was warning from this plan the headline was "Death in the Kibbutz." Okay, how symbolic is that? Okay, several months ago, "Death in the Kibbutz," she wrote. So there was a huge intelligence failure, not at her level, but at the higher level of the people who are actually making the decisions, and that their job is to actually warn the political echelon of what was going on. But at the same time, Netanyahu did get a lot of other warnings that had to do also with the general situation where Israel's enemies were planning to gang up on it because of the domestic crisis over Netanyahu's judicial overhaul in the months before the war.
Alex, what do you make of this report? How are U.S. officials likely to react?
Well, Anderson, I really do think it goes to this theme that we've been reporting on for quite some time of the underestimation of what Hamas was capable of doing and certainly what they intended to do. You and I have talked about intelligence reports and assessments, both on the Israeli and the American side, in the days leading up to October 7th that indicated that Hamas might do something. Now, what that something was expected to be was what we had seen before in previous rounds of fighting that were frankly rather inconsequential.
Now, for the ones that
Israel.
I'm interrupting here because the market is open and then there's data coming out. Remember what I said, that financial instability is going to start? Well, the ISM manufacturing index is at 46 and the expectation was at 47. And it's unchanged from previous release. So what I'm stating here is that there's a slowdown in manufacturing. There's an economic instability that's starting to emerge, right? And we have to pay attention to that. And that's another signs of the dark cloud coming. It's not fully dark yet. It's just starting. It's going to gain momentum. These are all interrelated. People need, if you really want to be intelligent, there are multiple nodes of causality.
Inconsequential for Israel, and that would have been rockets being fired across the border, which then likely would have been intercepted by the Iron Dome, which is exactly what we're seeing on our screen right there. But there was no sense that Hamas would be able to break through the fence and carry out the types of massacres that they did. There is acknowledgement and public acknowledgement here in the U.S. From intelligence officials and Biden administration officials that this.
I don't understand why
Responsibility for this. They're laying it at the feet of the intelligence apparatus and security apparatus in Israel. Essentially, the U.S. has been so focused on China and on Russia and Ukraine that they just don't spend a lot of time thinking about Hamas and other Palestinian militant groups. Now, will that change going forward? That remains to be seen. We've certainly seen U.S. intelligence playing a much bigger role during this conflict with drones and other kinds of signals intelligence gathering. But in their minds, this is an Israeli intelligence failure. I think most will tell you that Netanyahu is not expected to survive this, but there's also an expectation that the heads of the intelligence agencies
there should be a reckoning.
Yeah, there should be a reckoning of just the agencies, but let's not look at how we behave at home, Anderson Cooper, and assume that there's not going to be some sort of divine retribution. Anderson Cooper. The reason why I'm so negative towards Anderson was that when he was covering Fukushima with Dr. Gupta, or I think his name is Gupta, on CNN, they were there, and they were measuring the radiation levels outside of the 50-mile radius, and the Geiger counter was starting to tick up, and they got all scared and they stopped and ran home. Meanwhile, other people in Japan started getting thyroid cancers. But it's okay, that Anderson Cooper, can have a nice life. Meanwhile, there are people that are, and he doesn't even cover what the lasting effects of what happened with Fukushima. Such a jackass.
A Fox News alert. Sirens blaring in Israel as the ceasefire with Hamas ends and fighting resumes. Greg Palcott live in southern Israel with the very latest. Greg.
Yeah, folks, after a week's pause, the fighting is on. The war between Israel and Hamas is raging again. We're just about a mile from the northern part of Gaza Strip at our location here. I'm going to step aside and let cameraman Ben give you a sense of the landscape here. In the last hour or so, we've been seeing Israeli airstrikes. We've been hearing Israeli artillery. You might see a little bit of smoke coming from there. There was a whole bunch of smoke coming from there about a half hour ago. We're also hearing automatic gunfire, a sign of clashes on the ground. Remember, there could be thousands of Israeli soldiers there. The strongest strikes have been in the southern part of Gaza.
Why is it
How do we get here? Well, both sides are blaming each other. After over 100 hostages were freed, Israel says Hamas did not present an adequate set of new captives to be released. Before the ceasefire was set to end, at around 7 a.m. local time, Hamas sent off some rockets to the neighboring villages where we are right now. And that was that. Following that, Israel announced it was resuming strikes, hitting a variety of locations again, trying to go for what is now the temporary headquarters of the Hamas.
I don't understand why the feed, it's not, video is all right, but audio is.
According to Hamas. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's off.
Damn it.
Or releasing the hostages, eliminating Hamas.
All right, let's.
Last night we did see the last, for now it seems, of the released hostages, 7 women and 1 man. Level. And while negotiators today say they're looking to restart the ceasefire, experts say that is unlikely to happen. It looks like we got war again. And remember, guys, as we watch this, as we watch the Israeli Air Force hit targets, as we see smoke come up, hear a lot of booms, there are still hostages there too. Maybe as many as 140 that haven't been freed. So retrieving the hostages as well as dealing with Hamas, it's a double-barreled target and strategy for Israel. Back to you.
You know, here's the problem. You got the United States going to the Israelis, and they're saying, well, you know, when you start it up again, when you start the bombings in Gaza, which they have, you got to be gentler in going forward. You know, you got to be worried about the civilian casualties. The problem is that Hamas is dug into the civilian population. How are you going to root out cancer without doing damage to surrounding tissue? You know, it's amazing. You know? All right, this one is another Fox clip. Israel cannot live beside Hamas, which I totally agree with.
Has been on the ground for several weeks covering these stories, and he joins me now from Tel Aviv. Douglas, it's really, we all, I think, followed Mia's story, and there are so many of these stories, but to see her, and you talk about these hostages, when you see images of them in the transport vehicles, they all look aged by what they have been through.
Of course they have. They've been through a lot of stress.
And of course, as I've pointed out in a number of venues, the problem is that Hamas is playing not a clever but a cunning game. It is not only reneging on its agreements. I mean, this morning's hostages, just 50 minutes before the ceasefire was meant to end, Hamas finally handed over the names of the next batch of hostages. And they're keeping hostages back who are family members of the ones who are released. In other words, they're continuing.
Well, let's get this straight. Hamas is holding hostages, but yet they'll use the international community and mainstream media to go, oh, the civilians, they're not part of this. Well, then let the hostages go. The problem with Esau and Ishmael are they're animals, and there's only one way to deal with old Yeller, and that's to shoot old Yeller. You know, it's got rabies. You know, you got to get rid of the dog.
continuing the water torture of the Israeli public and of these families in particular by making sure that they know that if they were to say something or do anything to upset Hamas, then their family member, their loved one might still be at even greater risk themselves. This whole process is utter torture for Israelis. In the immediate aftermath of the 7th of October, many people just assumed that everyone who'd gone into Gaza would be dead, that it was worse than death. Of having these hostages, they've managed to stop the Israelis carrying out military actions to destroy Hamas by eking out these hostages day by day. Every day they do some trick. Every day they do something to further disappoint the families. And
you gotta look at all these events that have been taking place, because we've restarted the cycle of reading the Torah on Simchas Torah was the ending of the cycle, so the war starts, and then each week we read a different, section of the Torah, right? A different, we call it Parsha, right? Chapter verse, if you want to, view it in those terms. And this week reading is the struggle between the angel and Jacob's ladder, right? And I'm going to say something that's a little kind of esoteric and kind of profound. Maybe I always say something esoteric and profound. I don't know. But there are three. How do I want to phrase it? There are 3 points. There are 3 sets of 3 points. There's an upper set, a mid set, and a lower set. And the reason why the angel had to hurt Jacob, I believe it's the left leg, the sciatic nerve. Jews don't eat the sciatic nerve, right? So it's because of what happened to Jacob while he was wrestling the angel. I think the term is Moloch. This angel, right? And he was asking for the blessing, and his name is changed. It's, Jacob, and his name is changed to Israel, actually. And he's wrestling this angel, but the angel couldn't hurt him above the waist because the 2 upper sets of 3 attributes, this is dealing with the Sephiros. The upper 3 attributes and the mid 3 attributes are too strong. They're of holy origin, right? But the lower part is our action, and it's less holy, and it's easier to succumb to evil, or easier to be weakened and not do the right thing. All right. So it's in this Parsha of this week that's going to be read on Saturday, where it's Saturday morning, where it's talking about Jacob and this sciatic nerve injury. The way I interpret this is that not just the Jewish people, but mankind in general is weakened, right? And that we can succumb to the evil inclination easier. And we need to bolster up our efforts to push that away and try to get stronger. Now, the lower part of the body is supported. Your legs, right? Your legs and your hip are the major support structure that is bolstering up the rest of the body. So on the physical plane, the lower third, the lower part of the 3 attributes of the 3 sets, the lower part is the most physically strong, but the least spiritually strong. And as you move up towards your head, it's the least physically strong, but the most spiritually strong. And this is a reason why the Moloch that the angel could not hurt Jacob in his head or in his torso. He could only hurt him on the lower third because of this strong in this world, but weak spiritually. The lower third is. So, I mean, that's, you know, that's how I take this when I look at this in a Kabbalistic way. All right, replaying the video here. You know what? There's a. Let me try
So
to.
just
There's something wacky with the audio today. Let me read.
further point the families. And Hamas, of course, are doing that in the hope that there will just be a wind down of the conflict. And I was very disturbed by what Secretary Blinken said in that press conference he just showed us, because there seems to be so little awareness outside of Israel of the following very basic fact. Israel cannot live beside Hamas. It cannot live beside Hamas.
It's about
It
time
can't live
someone said
beside
that.
this Hamas or Hamas 2.0 or anything else. No leftist Israeli believes that they can live beside Hamas. So Hamas has to be destroyed, and the Israeli government has said that is its principal war. Of course, at the same time, they are having to negotiate for these precious hostages. And as you know, but as too few of the media do know, each of these children and young people is being swapped for 3 people in Israeli prisons who are stabbers, murderers, bomb carriers. There's one woman who was released today, who was released for trying to kill her neighbor, her Jewish neighbor in East Jerusalem. She's just been released and gone back to her home.
And that's obviously terrifying for the people who live in those areas and understand the threat that these people have posed, some of them, probably most of them, to these communities. And you're right, cunning, I think, is a good word for the way they're carrying this. Here, and a lot of people, as you say, who are the other half of families and couples who have been released. So this story is far, far from over. And Douglas, your coverage has been excellent. We thank you very much for covering it for us on the front lines. Good to see you, Douglas.
All right, and I'm going to do one more video. This one is Sky News. It's about 3 minutes long, and it's dealing with the resuming of the bombings.
I'll dig deeper into the top story that Caroline brought us, and to do that I welcome new Senator and former Ambassador to Israel, Dave Sharma. Thank you so much for joining me. I guess this moment was always coming, an end to the ceasefire, and it appears at the hands of Hamas.
Unfortunately, I think this moment was always coming. It looks like Hamas is not willing to give up any more hostages. None were forthcoming today, and of course Hamas began firing rockets into Israel, which is how this conflict started on the 7th of October, in addition to the kidnapping. And so, look, what was a temporary pause in hostilities is going to remain just that, and this conflict is resuming as we speak.
Potentially.
Look, I've seen those reports. I know one of the journalists, Ronan Bergman. He's a very credible journalist, and he's got good sources in Israel. So I think you could say the story is well sourced. It also, look, frankly, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, people in Israel and at the senior levels know this was an intelligence failure, and you know, like many intelligence failures, it's sort of a combination of a failure of imagination, a degree of groupthink, and an inability to sort of extract, you know, nuggets of information from a haystack that counter your dominant narrative. And I think that's what's happened here. There was obviously, if this story is true, suggestions that Hamas was planning a large-scale operation, but it seems that a lot of the IDF senior leadership and the intelligence community leadership discounted those reports or thought they were unlikely. And Hamas seems to have done exactly what was in this so-called Jericho Wall operational document.
There will be a time and a place, clearly, for all of that to be looked into. Now is not that time nor that place. But there are those jumping on this and somehow demonizing Israel again. And even given there were failures, it's almost like saying, oh yeah, I thought that bloke was going to attack me, and I had a feeling he was going to attack me, but I was silly and I still went out with him and he attacked me. You know, that people will take anything and everything and make it Israel's fault, it seems, in some quarters.
Well, you're right. I mean, it's blaming the victim. And if you took that position literally, Israel would have had a right to strike Hamas preemptively then, of course, and disable this operation before it could get underway further. And just imagine how the activists would have reacted then if Israel had gone into without provocation to take out Hamas's military leadership. They would have said this was an unbridled act of aggression. So I don't see how Israel could win in this situation. They were the horrible terrorist attack. All they're doing now is exercising their right to self-defence, which any nation has, and which we would expect to be extended to us in Australia if we came under such attack.
Yeah.
So that is the Israeli conflict. With Hamas, the restarting of it, you know, more bombings are taking place. This is going to ramp up more, but trust me, Ishmael and Esau, they act like animals. I know people are going to say, you're biased, Paul. Okay, fine. Maybe I am. But the bottom line is this. You just look at the news. You think that they're acting like human beings? You think Hamas is acting like a human being? And then you look at the whole arc of it. You know, the 50-year arc or the 75-year arc, whichever one that you want to pick, or even the 3,000-year arc. The bottom line is the can has been kicked down the road too many times, and it's time to get the job done. You know, and there have been many famous, you know, people that are extremely intelligent. You know, a lot of people put, would say that, oh, Einstein is, you know, a pillar of intelligence, or, you know, Richard Feynman, or Michio Kaku, or Brian Greene, or Leonard Susskind, or some of all these, even what's his name? The guy that died in the wheelchair they couldn't speak because of ALS. I can't remember his name right now. But you know, you had some really intelligent individuals, especially in physics. All right. A lot of them were atheists, actually. But the thing is that, you know, they were really intelligent. But the thing is, their intelligence level was eclipsed by some of these individuals that are 14 generations of Torah scholars. You know, that they don't. All they do is, you know, pray and study. All right. And when you look at these people, there's only about these types are rare. You know, they're very rare. There's probably about 5 or 6 in the world. All right. You look at them in person, and they look like an angel. They're filled with so much light and knowledge that they literally look like they're an LED lamp or something. You know, it's strange, but they're rare. And it's because of one generation after another, you know, and they're tapping into an energy source. They're tapping into a database, or a knowledge base that is much, much higher than anything that Einstein and, you know, some of these other, you know, great thinkers, even Aristotle, you know, some of these great thinkers, they were big people, right? But there are people that are living today that are 3 or 4 times their level of intelligence. But they don't talk. They don't talk to people like you and I. They're on a different level, right? And they're saying that something big is coming. All right. Now people will say, well, you know, there's bias and all that. Well, you know what? You know, the Jewish people have been able to survive a lot of hardship for thousands and thousands of years, and there's not been too many societies throughout those thousands of years that actually were kind to them. Now, there was always like, well, you know, we like Jews as long as they get that, you know, they're our lawyer or they're our tax attorney or they're our doctor. But the moment that, you know, you don't need them, then there's some sort of program, right? It's happened in history, and there's very few Jews. So, you know what? About 15 million, maybe 20 million real Jews out of a billion plus 2 billion Muslims. Now that alone, the ability to survive in that kind of environment and be somewhat, to be productive, right, and influential, shows that there is some sort of divine light, divine energy that's coming, that feeds this plane, that helps. And this is the reason why the Kohanim and the Levites are so important for that Temple Mount rebuilding. It's not every Jew that is holy enough to do it. And it's only a subset of those people, a subset of the Kohanim and a subset of the Levites that can do this. And people just need to understand that once the Temple Mount is rebuilt, then there's blessing for everyone. And the whole world will be at peace. Even the Arabs will be at peace. But the thing is, you got to root out the evil side of the Arabs. And that is, in terms that we use contemporarily, it is Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. It's these caliphate, Islamic jihadists that have to be eliminated. That's my take on it, and I'm not wrong. So thank you for listening, on X. I'm gonna wrap it up here, but please, go to the links on my videos and subscribe to all my channels. I have 3 YouTube channels. They're heavily censored. This stuff I can keep up, but when I start talking about white lung, and when I start talking about, injury because of the V or injury because of the CV, then, it gets taken down. So, I can't keep those up. So you have to also subscribe to Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble to see all my content. So subscribe to all 6 channels. The links are in the description of my videos. Please help support my news coverage by going to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You can buy my products or you can donate. You can donate on the homepage at the very bottom through Stripe or PayPal, or you can also donate through Buy Me a Coffee. Link is in the description of this video. Or you can also be a paid subscriber for my Patreon channel. That helps to support my news coverage. But please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the health products that I have. I have structural nano silver toothpaste, the best toothpaste that you can buy, way better than Alex Jones, like 3 times better than Alex Jones. Alex Jones looks 10 or 15 years older than me, and I'm older than Alex Jones. Wonder why? Maybe you should follow my anti-aging protocol. Lignans. This is a powder. It helps boost up your immune system. Guess what? In a post-COVID era, cancers are going to go up. What do you think you need? A boosted immune system. You need better NK cells and CD8 positive cells. Good night formula. You take this every day. It has tryptophan and melatonin in it. It's going to actually get you into a 3 REM cycle sleep. You know why 3 REM cycles are important? So you don't look like Alex Jones. It allows you to detox your cells. Your body detoxes mostly while you're sleeping. And you need that REM cycle sleep to improve that detoxification. And that detoxification is cells that are outside the cerebral system and inside the cerebral system. All right. On top of that, it'll help to consolidate memory. You consolidate memory through REM cycles. So if you start wondering why your memory is so poor and you can't sleep very well, you get good night formula. Don't be an Alex Jones. silver gel. I have it in a container here that's easy to dispense, and you can carry it around in your bag. This one has 35 ppms, the 35 parts per million. Structural nano silver gel neutralizes pathogens. It also improves your skin, the skin health, and it helps to heal wounds on your skin, like cuts, abrasions, acne. All right. We're in the cold season, and oh, guess what? There's white lung out there. There's white lung that's happening. And I was saying that, you know, when you have a weakened immune system because of the crisis that we went through, because of the CV and the V, don't be surprised that your immune system is disrupted, which falls in the category of AIDS-like syndrome. You need to follow the protocol. The protocol is very simple. Neutralize pathogens with structural nanosilver, bring down reactive oxygen species by taking very strong antioxidants like C60 and bringing down pro-inflammatory cytokines. Oh, you know, I just did 2 shows talking about this sub super antigen problem that's on the S1 and S2 V and CV. All right. And that when it's cleaved, the S1 can bind to the TCR of the CD4 positive cells and inhibit them and activate cytokines. Well, I wonder why it's so important to bring down pro-inflammatory cytokines. I'm wondering why it's so important to actually boost up your immune system when you have a piece of the spike that actually inhibits a CD4 positive cell. And I've been saying this since 2020. You know, it's amazing. It's amazing, and no one's paying attention. Everyone's so worried about, you know, what fucking Malone has to say. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. We're going through the cold season, and there's something that's happening in Australia, in UK, and in China right now that you need to pay attention to. Honey and lemon drops, 100 count. It has the structural nanosilver, so it'll help to neutralize that pathogens. All right. I also have it in blueberry, 100 count. And I also have the lozenges, which are larger, in sweet menthol, 20 count. And I also have them in green apple. So that's a great product to you know, especially when you're going through the cold season. You know, there's a lot of people in New York that are getting sick, and you're noticing it. All right. You know, if you're in probably a rural area, you're probably not noticing it. But if you're in a high density area like New York, Chicago, or, you know, LA, San Francisco, you are seeing it. Magnesium and zinc, really important to boost up your immune system. If you're sick, take a double dose of it. Zinc has been shown to improve, you know, fighting a cold or a sickness. A multivitamin. This multivitamin that I have is easy to digest. There are cofactors in here that help with the enzymes, their activity. All right. If you don't take a multivitamin on a regular basis, you're not going to have the enzymatic activity that you should be having. Enzymes, a lot of our enzymes that are really important for our metabolism need cofactors. All right. And these cofactors are in this multivitamin. So go to the store and get the products that you need to boost up your immune system. You know, there's a white lung that's going on around. Wonder why? Oh, AIDS-like syndrome. Citrus. I have 2 deodorants. These are the best deodorants that you're going to be able to buy, so you don't smell like Alex Jones. All right. The reason why these deodorants are superior to anything that you're buying is, one, it's made from Himalayan essential oils. It's a extremely high quality product. So you use it as a deodorant, but not only that, because of the high quality ingredients that are in it, it'll actually help detoxify your body. So you don't smell like Alex Jones and you don't age like Alex Jones. Use it every day. I have it in citrus and in peppermint lavender. This is a product that was developed by rainbow herbals, and extremely high quality. All my products on my store are extremely high quality, and many of them have dual purpose. Like I said, with the deodorant, it's dual purpose. So you don't smell like Alex Jones, right? And it's for males and females. So you don't want to smell like Mrs. Alex Jones either. And you will detox. It's a dual purpose. Another dual purpose is the silver gel. Like I said, it'll improve your skin if you apply it at night and you just exfoliate. It will help if you have a cut. It'll help the healing of the cut. The reason why it helps the healing of the cut is it's actually neutralizing pathogens to make sure that the cut is clean. It'll speed up the healing process on a burn. It'll help to heal acne. Wonder why? Because it neutralizes pathogens. And not just that, it will, if you put it around your mouth and around your nose and lightly coat your nostrils, around your ears, lightly coat your ear canal, around your eyes, lightly coat, it'll reduce the chances of getting something during the cold season. It stays active for 5 hours. You can't do that with Perel. Perel is toxic. You can't put Perel around your mouth. You can do that with structural nanosilver. So many of the products that I have dual purpose. And oh, by the way, get the best toothpaste that you can buy. And that is on my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Thank you for listening to PNN and my ranting and my perspective. I'm sure you don't agree with me, everyone that's listening, but that's okay. You don't have to agree with me. But there is something powerful coming, and that the sensitives are going to benefit from it because they've prepared. And the ones that have been paying attention to the sensitives that aren't sensitive, they can also benefit from it and prepare. All right? We're going through dark times, and there is this disentanglement that's taking place between good people and bad people. So when the energy flux comes, there's more curse on, there's more energy for the ones that need to be cursed, and there's more energy that flows to the ones that are good. For example, the ones that are still watching or listening on X. If you look at two major biblical events, what were their similarities? There were a group of people during the flood and during the Exodus. During the flood, it was Noah and his family and the animals put in an ark and protected in a certain way around water. And the rest of the world that's outside of the ark was destroyed. Okay? That's the biblical Noah flood. So people were separated. The disentanglement had to take place. So a blessing could go to Noah and a curse to everybody else. So there could be a restart. Okay? Well, when this all stopped and Noah got out of the ark and made a vineyard, right? And saw the rainbow and all this stuff, God said, I won't destroy the whole world. I'll just destroy it enough so you can rebuild from it. All right? That's what a rainbow means. A rainbow isn't, something that you should, view in 100% positive light. Actually, a rainbow is to remind you that more death and destruction, if you don't pay attention to the precepts of the Bible or the Torah, is actually going to come. It's just that it won't be complete destruction. It'll just be destruction. And we see that today in Syria, in Gaza, in the Ukraine, around the world, and a lot of things are happening in Africa that no one's paying attention about. The world is up in flames. The other biblical example is the separating of the Jews with the Paschal lamb sacrifice and the blood on the doorposts during the passing of this is Passover, right? And the firstborn is killed. So anyone that was protected, Jewish homes, right? They were protected from the Paschal lamb, and the door was closed, and the blood was on the doorpost. The firstborn wasn't killed. All the rest of Egypt was. Something similar is happening. And that is there's a disentanglement between the good people and the bad people. And there's going to be a curse that's going on to the bad people, and there's going to be a blessing on the good people. Get your house in order. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.